Hello and welcome to this new format that I'm doing, Chat with the Author. My name is Michelle Fondin. I'm an author, speaker, YouTuber, and some of you know me as that tarot reader and astrologer as well. This is brand new for me, doing a live stream Q&A. It's totally cool if I'm the only one on this live stream today, because I know there will be folks that watch this on replay. So as this is new and as I'm getting my sea legs in doing this format, this type of live stream that's a Q&A about one of my published books, for those of you that have read it or maybe have not read it, or any topics related to the specific book at hand. So today we are talking about my latest book, The Empowered Divine Feminine, Becoming an Unstoppable Woman in the 21st Century and Beyond. And this book, it came out in October of last year of 2023. And what I did in preview of people that may or may not be on the live stream is I have a list of questions. So I'm going to do my own Q&A. And if you are watching this live and you would like to ask a question about divine feminine, about feminine empowerment, about divine feminine versus divine masculine, whatever you want to ask about that topic in particular on the empowered divine feminine. I should really have it like here. And I talk with my hands a lot, so it might not even be possible for me to keep the book there because it just may not stay there. But if you have any questions related to that specific topic, even if it has to do with divine masculine versus divine feminine, or like, this is one of the questions I wrote down. Do you have to be a twin flame to be a divine feminine? Anything related to spiritual awakening for the divine feminine? So any of those types of questions, please feel free to ask. Anybody can ask any of those questions pertaining to this book. Also, if you're watching this live or on replay and you have a book topic request on one of my published books that you would like me to address on this chat with the author, then go ahead and put that in the chat if you're watching this live, or put it in the comments if you're watching this post live. So generally speaking, it's going to be every Monday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. Next week, we're not going to do it because I'll be out of town on vacation. But if you're watching this live, go ahead and say hello. You can just say hello in the chat box and I will say hello back, even if you don't have a question pertaining to the book. So I'm here with my little, I've got my little espresso drink here, and I've got my water. I'm gonna take a sip of water before we get started. Okay, so first question. What prompted you to write The Empowered Divine Feminine? What prompted you to write The Empowered Divine Feminine? I wrote The Empowered Divine Feminine in response to coaching a lot of twin flames. So I've been coaching twin flames on the twin flame journey since 2019. I posted my first twin flame video. I want to say it was February 2nd of 2019. And that was the first one. I think my first video might've been like, what is a twin flame? So for those of you that are new to the twin flame journey, or maybe don't even care about the twin flame journey, I was on the twin flame journey starting in September of 2018. I didn't really realize it till December of 2018. I started doing a lot of inquiry, a lot of meditation and self-exploration on this twin flame journey. And then I started doing videos. And the reason I started producing videos on the twin flame journey in February of 2019 was just because I wanted to know if there was anybody else out there. I wanted to know if anyone else was experiencing the types of thing that I was experiencing. And a lot of you came to this channel, my YouTube channel at Michelle Fondin Author. I have a few YouTube channels. Notably, my second one is at Transcendent Astrology and Tarot. But a lot of you came to my YouTube channel via the 14 twin flame signs video. And so a lot of you came to this channel because of that video. And that video was produced in February of 2019. So since then, I've been coaching so many twin flames. I mean, tons of twin flames. I would say well over 1,000 twin flames, either divine feminine, divine masculine, or couples, mostly divine feminines. I would say most, like 90% of the people that I've coached are divine feminine twin flames. And as I was coaching a lot of twin flames, and most of you who have been watching the channel for quite some time know that I've written 2 books on twin flames, Twin Flame Romance and Twin Flame Union. And it kept coming around to feminine empowerment. It kept coming around to divine feminines feeling completely powerless in the situation with their divine masculine twin flame. And this sense of powerlessness of, I just don't know what to do. Things are not changing. And no matter what I do, no matter how much self-work I do, or no matter how much I pull away, nothing is really changing. And so I wrote the Empowered Divine Feminine kind of to finish off the trilogy, if you will, between Twin Flame Romance, Twin Flame Union, and now the Empowered Divine Feminine, for women, not just on the twin flame journey, but for women to help them see that their power lies within. And that is really why I wrote this book. And I wanted to help others become more empowered through realizing that their power lies within. Hey, yay, Jennifer. You're becoming empowered at the gym. I absolutely love that. Thank you for joining. I'm so happy that you decided to join, even at the gym. Okay, so the number 2 question I have on my list, and again, I have the list here, is what is the divine feminine? For those of you that are not on the twin flame journey and have no idea what the divine feminine is, I explain the divine feminine as the higher octave of the feminine. The divine feminine is a woman seeking, and it could be a man, right? And that is another question. So I will address that at that question. But in this case, it's a woman seeking the higher expression of who she is. And any woman, and I think that's another question. So any woman could be entering into her divine feminine higher octave energy. And it doesn't have to be a twin flame. So you don't have to be a twin flame to be a divine feminine. It could just be that you've had a massive spiritual awakening. And if you've had a massive spiritual awakening, it means you're accessing your higher spiritual self. And as you're accessing your higher spiritual self, you're automatically moving up into the higher octave of that energy, whatever your dominant energy happens to be, whether your dominant energy happens to be masculine or feminine, feminine or masculine. That would be you entering into the higher octave of that higher level energy. And so when you feel like nothing makes sense to you in the way of your friends, if you're a woman, right? Because I'm speaking to women notably in this portion about this book. But if you're a woman and things are not making sense to you in your friends groups, you're not relating so much to the female friends anymore, or the female people in your family anymore, that you're like, I just feel very different. I'm not looking at things in the same way anymore. I'm not worried about the same things that they're worried about anymore. I'm feeling more in touch with myself. I'm feeling more that I'm wanting to foster my sense of self-love, or I'm wanting to study about spirituality more. I'm wanting to read books about spirituality more and more and more and more. So the divine feminine is really a woman living in her divinity, living in her higher octave of feminine energy. And actually, toward the end of the live stream, I'm going to read from page, I earmarked the page 17 in the book. Actually, it's in the paperback book. This is the hardcover. What did I just drop there? Oh, see, I've got a crystal there. So actually, page 17 really describes in detail what is a divine feminine. So I'll read that toward the end of the live stream. Okay, question number 3. Do you have to be a twin flame to be a divine feminine or a divine masculine? The answer is no. We have not appropriated, as twin flames, we have not appropriated those terms, divine feminine, divine masculine. So for a man who is entering into his, and we're using gender specific terms just because it's easier for me to say it in this way. But you don't have to be, you could be a man feeling more resonant with divine feminine energy, right? You could be a woman feeling more resonant with divine masculine energy, but we're going to be gender specific just for the sake of speaking and not having to qualify every time. So divine masculine energy would be like a man living in the higher octave of his masculine energy rather than the lower octave. So he's feeling also more in touch with his higher spiritual self. He's feeling that his yang or masculine energy is evolving and growing and taking on a whole different flavor. He doesn't feel that fight or flight reaction so much. He feels reacting from a higher spiritual perspective more often. So yeah, it could be a man or a woman entering into their divinity, and no, they do not have to be twin flames. Okay, so number 4 is, what is masculine versus feminine energy? The way I really like to describe it is like the yin yang symbol. Let's look at masculine and feminine energy as being energy. It's just energy. The way the yin yang symbol represents polar opposite ends of energy. There's the yin energy, which is the more feminine, passive, lunar, and dark matter energy, if you will. And then there is the yang energy, which is light, white, light, solar power, and more masculine energy. So they are a dynamic duo. Masculine and feminine are a dynamic duo of energy. Neither one is better than the other at all. Sometimes one takes dominance over the other while the other takes a more passive role. This goes on both ends, just like yin and yang. But one is not better than the other. It's just a dynamic energy exchange of sometimes yin is dominating or feminine energy is dominating. Sometimes masculine energy is dominating, and they interplay with one another perfectly. And so when we talk about masculine energy in its purest form, it is yang. And we talk about feminine energy in its purest form, it is yin in nature. This is number 5. Question number 5. What is the lower feminine versus the higher feminine? So the lower feminine energy versus the higher feminine energy. The lower feminine energy is really what we've experienced up until now, right? According to all of recorded history, it's what we have mostly, not all, but it's what we've mostly experienced now. And the way I like to describe it is it's feminine energy living in the lower chakras. And we'll talk about that in another live stream. I'm not going to go into deep detail on that. But it's really the lower feminine is the feminine feeling the weakness in comparison to the masculine energy. And that is what has been lived out for centuries and centuries and centuries. It is the lower feminine is the one who is more nurturing and caring, but maybe from a victim standpoint, or maybe from a powerlessness standpoint, or maybe feeling that she might need to manipulate or control situations in order to get more power, or to play the victim in order to get more power. So that would be some expressions of the lower feminine. Expressions of the higher feminine would be the higher feminine who is not afraid to live in her yin, passive, compassionate, loving, nurturing, creating, co-creating energy. She's not afraid because she knows there's innate power in all of those things. So because there's so much power in yin energy that she doesn't feel like she has to manipulate or control any situation, that she feels that innate power from within. So it's not that you're asking for it from the higher feminine perspective. It's just that you are it, right? And the way I explain that is like Mother Nature is incredibly powerful. If you have not yet noticed, incredibly powerful. Even Mother Nature's most passive energy is still incredibly powerful. So a stream may flow down, and it may flow down, and it's really easy, yin energy, to have it flow down, but it will erode rock beds over time. That's extremely powerful. So that would be the difference between lower feminine energy and higher feminine. Okay, so let's go to, hold on, I gotta take a sip of coffee here. And welcome if you are just joining me now, or if you are watching this on replay. I really like the fact that you guys have stopped by. All right, so what is the lower masculine versus the higher masculine? Very similar to the lower feminine versus the higher feminine. The lower masculine has been something that has been around for centuries and centuries and centuries since recorded history. We have had some instances of higher masculine in the same way we've had some instances of higher feminine. But for the most part, the lower masculine is what we have experienced up until now. It's raw, pure yang energy, right? It's raw yang energy that is relatively unchecked. So yang energy is penetrating, it's deep, it's action oriented, right? So if you take something like the sun, and boy, oh boy, it's been hot here in Southern California. So I can tell you the hot sun that is penetrating and unrelenting is yang, unbridled. It's like, if it's going to fight, it's going to fight. If it's going to compete to win, it's going to compete to win. And there's always this need to have that forward moving momentum, the action forward, that's not necessarily checked with a higher spiritual perspective. The higher masculine would be taking that raw energy of yang and being able to infuse spirit into it. So when you infuse spirit into it, you're going to act very differently. So fighting with your fists might look in the higher masculine like a diplomacy, right? So we're looking at transforming and transmuting raw energy, which is lower masculine, lower feminine, into something higher from a higher spiritual perspective that is going to, let's say it would be injected with unconditional love. So if you inject something with unconditional love versus injecting it with its raw energy, which tends to be in fear, you're going to transform and transmute it no matter what it is. So really that's the higher masculine or the higher feminine versus the lower masculine or the lower feminine. Okay, so number 7 is, why are these concepts necessary to understand? I like this question. Why are these concepts necessary to understand about divine feminine, lower feminine, higher feminine, lower masculine, higher masculine? For the divine feminine, or for the woman who is looking to increase her sense of feeling empowered, these concepts are really important to understand from the perspective of not feeling a victim or not feeling that you do not hold any power in a society where patriarchy is still a thing. Or I would say societies, plural, worldwide, where patriarchy is still a thing. We are in the midst of a shift, a major shift. And when I was doing research for the book on the yin yang concept, not the yin yang book, I was reading a book on yin yang for this book, for the Empowered Divine Feminine, this one. I was reading the full Chinese philosophy on yin yang. I was reading the entire thing about what it really means, what it really is, what was the intent behind it, what were the teachings behind it. And the teachings behind it were that yin yang is just natural law. Natural law means if yang, in this case, the masculine, right? We're talking about the patriarchy, the masculine. If yang is dominant for so long on the planet, yin will naturally rise up, because that is just the way of things. That is just the law of things. That is the natural law. One force cannot over-dominate the other force except for a period of time. Automatically, the other force will take over. And so we are at a time in history, we are at a time in the present moment that the feminine energy that has been suppressed, or the lower energy, if you will, it hasn't been as dominant as the masculine energy. It is now rising up. And as the feminine energy rises up in dominance on the planet, because according to the yin yang principle, it must, what that means for women across the globe is that we have a choice at this point. We have a choice. We can either remain in the lower feminine and operate in ways that are disempowering to us, or we can choose to embrace the divine feminine perspective, which is infusing unconditional love into our feminine energy. So that's why it's so important to understand these concepts now, is because naturally, as a natural way of things, feminine energy is rising up. It's becoming the more dominant energy. And the only reason for that is not to punish the masculine or the patriarchy or anything. It's not that. It's just the natural way of things. It's like a seesaw. If you've been riding a seesaw when you were a kid, the only way to play on a seesaw is if you have two people and you keep going. One side of the seesaw goes up and then the other side goes up, and one goes up and the other goes up. If one stays up, it's not playing. It's no fun, right? So that's just the way of things. That's why these concepts are so incredibly important to comprehend, especially for the women in this collective, or those who have been awakening and been on a spiritual awakening. All right, so I'm gonna take a sip of water here, take a little break. And welcome if you're joining me now or on replay. We're gonna do this every Monday except for next Monday, because I'll be on vacation. But we'll be doing this every Monday at 5:30 Pacific time with this book or different books that I've written. I've written 11 published books. All right, so the next question is, in the book, you write about masculine versus feminine raw energy. What does this mean? So there is a concept that a lot of people argue about. Sociologists argue about it. Psychologists argue about it. Biologists argue about it. And it's the nature versus nurture concepts, right? How much of our training is societal based as far as gender roles, or like women acting like women, men acting like men, little girls acting like little girls, and little boys acting like little boys. The truth is we don't really know, right? That's the truth. The truth of the matter is we don't really know. We could debate it till the end of time. And the truth is we really don't know. But here is what's true. There is a portion of our energies as we are born into being a little boy or a little girl. There is a specific portion of those energies that are raw energy. Raw energy, we can call it animalistic, we can call it innate, we can call it instinctual, whatever you want to call it. The name really doesn't matter. The raw energy that we're born into, is happening whether we like it or not. And you see this in babies. You see this in toddlers. You see that I tell the joking story about, when I was babysitting little boys, it's like everything they picked up was a stick that they either used as a sword or they used as a gun. Like that was what little boys tended to do when they were really young and barely even walking. Another thing about little boys, that innate raw masculine energy that I noticed and observed, is that from the time they could crawl, it seemed that little boys were crawling on everything and climbing on shelves and climbing on couches and climbing on things they shouldn't have been climbing on. Whereas the raw feminine energy used to be doing things like drawing, nurturing, caring for things, being a lot more compassionate, being concerned with other people's feelings, even from a baby standpoint, right? Even they were a lot more verbal from a very early age. Again, even before societal conditioning. So when I talk about raw masculine and raw feminine energy, I'm talking about those innate traits that are there in the rawness of the masculine and feminine energies, but that aren't necessarily taught. They're just more instinctual. And I think the conversations that are in the mainstream today are more like, no, everything is societal conditioning when it comes to gender roles. And everything that I've read says we don't really know. There is that nature versus nurture debate that is, like I said, ongoing probably until the end of time. But there is a portion of that that is very innate and instinctual that you can observe when you observe. I mean, even when you observe animal babies, right? If you observe like kittens and there's a female cat and a male cat, naturally you're going to see the male cats be a lot more aggressive, even as kittens. Okay, so now we're going to go to page 17, and this is going to answer the question that is really pertinent to this subject in this book, and I think it's going to really help, especially if you have been on the twin flame journey, or especially if you're going through a massive spiritual awakening and you're like, I don't even know how to perceive this. Again, this is going to probably resonate more with women than men, but this will give you a clue as to what I mean when I'm really talking about divine feminine. So I need to find the, hold on, I will find it. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go. A person living in their divinity. So this could be male or female, right? Masculine or feminine. A person living in their divinity has no need to criticize, compare, or control. They're not concerned with who is right and wrong because they see everyone's opinion as valid. Furthermore, a divine feminine or masculine doesn't need to say they are awakened or divine, for that is a trait of the ego. The one who is divine leads by example. They move through life calmly in a state of knowing. Most importantly, a divine feminine has no urge to criticize men as the other half. A woman living according to divine principles understands that we are one humanity. To deny, criticize, or shame men for being men is to deny, criticize, or shame themselves, for we are each a part of one another, as in the yin-yang symbol. A divine feminine is not afraid of her feminine nature, but embraces it fully. She is proud to be a woman in all aspects. Furthermore, she radiates the highest levels of feminine energy because she is whole within. And in that wholeness, her radiance raises the bar for all women. Additionally, unconditional love has a new meaning because she has fully learned to love herself unconditionally. A true divine feminine owns her power. She knows the magnitude of her power, but never uses it to manipulate, control, or overpower others. In knowing oneself, humility is automatic. All right, so I hope that gave you a little overview. There we go. I hope that gave you a little overview of what it means, or what I mean when I speak of divine feminine. And again, that was in the book on page 16, 17, and 18. I didn't read the whole thing, but some of it. All right, so we've got 2 more questions and then we'll wrap this up. Again, I invite you to come back to this discussion about this book or any of my other books. If you have read one of my published books and you're really curious about doing an author chat with me on one of those books, then you can make a request in the comment section at the end of the live stream if you watch this on replay. So number 10 is the goal to try to be one way or the other? Is the goal to try to be like divine masculine or divine feminine? The answer is no. You have an innate feeling inside of you as to your energetic dominance. Now, we have both energies, of course. How could we not have both energies? We have both the energy of masculine and feminine within us. Everybody does. There's an energy that we feel more comfy in. There's an energy that we feel is a more dominant energy. And that more dominant energy is the energy we tend to live in most of the time. So the goal is not to make both energies 50-50. That's impossible. We just can't do that. It wouldn't make sense to do it either. It just wouldn't make sense, because we're talking about attracting others, attracting people, attracting friends, attracting lovers. The reason why we attract in those people is because they're opposite energy of us typically, right? There's a resonance because something that we lack in our energetic resonance that we want to bring in will come in. So if we made it exactly 50-50, we wouldn't need anybody, right? And we're humans, we need other people. So the goal is not to try to make it 50-50. I'm 50% masculine, I'm 50% feminine. It's to embrace your dominant vibration. So if your dominant vibration is more feminine, you embrace that and you live it to the fullest and you live it into the highest divinity of what that is. If your dominant vibration is masculine, you live it in the highest divinity of what that masculine energy is, and you live through that. All right, so number 11, and I already answered this one, is what does gender have to do with masculine or feminine energy as far as being a divine masculine, divine feminine? And for the sake of this discussion, it doesn't have anything to do with it. As I mentioned, some men automatically feel more resonant with feminine energy, and they feel that they need to foster that sense of divinity in the divine feminine as they're moving through their spiritual awakening. And some women feel a more resonance with the masculine energy and feels they're rising up into their spiritual awakening. They feel that dominant resonance with the divine masculine. So it really truly doesn't matter. As I mentioned in the previous question, what matters the most in the masculine versus feminine debate, as far as we're speaking energetically, is that you honor your most dominant vibration and you live through that, but in the highest octave of that energy, be it feminine or masculine. So I want to thank you guys so much for joining me. If you do have questions, we're going to wrap this up. But if you have questions about the Empowered Divine Feminine or feminine and masculine principles or spiritual awakening, please do ask those questions. You can pop them in the chat box. Otherwise, I will be here in 2 weeks on Monday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. You can ask the questions then. You can put them in the comment section. So if you have questions that you would like me to address in the next live stream, put them in the comment section in this video, and I will make sure to include them in the questions on the next live stream. I would wager to say that we're going to still continue the study of the Empowered Divine Feminine in 2 weeks when I get back from vacation. And if you have any requests on any of my other published books that you'd like me to address on the live stream, let me know. So I want to thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for being a part of my channel and enjoying not only this live stream, but other videos on my channel. I appreciate you all. And I will see you in 2 weeks on Monday. Actually, I'm doing a live stream tomorrow too. Different topic though. I'll see you in 2 weeks on Monday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific. Thank you so much. Bye.